Before we can add that lining, we need to make sure that we put the male component of our lock in place. And if you're using a different lock, this just means the part of the lock that actually goes onto the bag body rather than the flap here. In this case, it's a very simple piece, 2 parts. We have our screw, and we have the locking mechanism itself at the top there. So putting that to one side, we're going to bring our pattern back. We're also going to take an awl in our hand. Over the edge of the table, because we have a turned flap at the moment, I'm going to place down the pattern, aligning all edges as usual. And at the front there, we have a little marker, a little circle, which points to the center. And there I can just put my awl over the top and mark through. Now to put the screw through, that's going to be a little bit small. So I'm going to take a hole punch just slightly smaller than the screw, okay? So it's about the width of the body of the screw, but not the threads on it, okay? That's what we're looking for. So at least we can screw that in there, it gives a bit more friction. Using the mark, I'm going to place this over the top and just press it very lightly to see whether or not I've managed to centralize the hole punch over our little mark. Okay, and I have. Once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to double check everything. I'm going to measure the side of that mark to the edge, just to make double sure that that is actually in the center. And when I'm happy with that, now just be aware on this part of the lock, of the closure, if you screw this closed, the minimum gap, the smallest it will close, standard from this piece, it may vary from batch to batch, but I measured it at 2.3 millimeters. Now the thickness of this piece here is in fact 2.3 millimeters, meaning you're not going to get much compression when you do it up nice and tightly. It's just going to be this screw bottoming out inside the closure. So what I've had to do is just very carefully hold the screw in a vise and then just take off about 1 millimeter from the top with a Dremel using a little rotary cutter, okay, a diamond cutter in my case, but it doesn't really matter what you use. You can even hold it in a vise and then just carefully file away about 1 millimeter, just so that it will close and compress the leather and hold onto it nice and tightly. So the minimum on this particular one was 2.3 millimeters. Now it's a fraction over 1 millimeter, which means we'll get a nice bit of compression. So to show you what I mean, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to begin just using my fingers first of all. Once you kind of got it centralized, you can then, using a small Phillips head screwdriver, begin screwing it through. Okay, I like it nice and tight like that. If you don't like that, you can cut a 3 millimeter hole and just push it through. On the other side, this is where it's going to attach. But before I do that, I'm just going to add a touch of contact adhesive to the threads and just a little bit around here, not too much, otherwise it will ooze out as we tighten it up. Now we can place that over the front. And begin screwing up. Okay, so that's on there nice and tight. See if we can go even tighter. Yeah. Double checking the front, making sure that we don't have any issues with any glue bleeding out. Closes very, very smoothly. It's quite nice actually. And that's looking good. Okay, so let's start working on the lining. So the next part you need to do is to cut out the lining. So I've taken a good section of the goat skin that I used or set aside for the lining, and I've cut a section just slightly larger than the pattern, as you can see, so we can trim up a little bit later on. Now, before we install the lining, we need to install the pocket. This is an optional pocket, so if you're not intending to add this pocket, you can simply skip ahead at this point. But I'm going to set aside this piece of lining for now, And I'm going to focus on cutting out this square in the pattern. Okay? So taking a sharp knife and a ruler, I'm simply going to go around this center square here and cut out. So now that's done, I'm going to place it back down again, watching for that margin. And just be aware, if you are making this pocket, and there's a section on the hide that's really nice, except for a blemish around here, it will be on the inside of the pocket. So that just opens up a little bit more opportunities for placement if you're working with, say, a B grade hide. So now that's ready, I'm just going to go around with a little masking tape. Now I'm going to take a roughing tool and just using the tip, I'm going to leave the top section here, okay, which is obviously near the top of the bag. I'm going to leave that section untouched, and I'm just going to add a little bit of roughing to the sides and the bottom of the pocket area. So using that roughing tool tip, I have it upright. Try not to sand the pattern too much. Doesn't have to be a lot. Remember, it is going to get stitched in. And using a small dispenser bottle with a precision tip, I'm going to add some Yoo-hoo glue, which I usually dilute a little bit with acetone. Makes it flow a little bit better. Now for the pocket, I've gone ahead and made a gusseted internal pocket. Now you may recognize this design from a previous video, which is called How to Make a Mini Doctor's Bag, which is another one of the videos in the masterclass which you have access to. So go and take a look at that at 27 minutes in, or 27 minutes and 7 seconds to be exact, on how to make this. This is actually very slightly scaled down, so it fits in this particular bag, but is essentially the exact same principle of construction. So if you want to make this, check out that video, and it just saves this video being a little bit excessively long. So now that's created and marked, I'm going to do the same thing with the adhesive. I've already pre-roughened the external 3mm edge there. Now we're going to leave that to dry for a few minutes. So with the top of the bag this way, the bottom of the bag this way, we're going to place the pocket inside. So lining up the edges of the gusset section first of all. And same thing on the opposite side. Starting in the center, obviously there'll be a little bit of excess, that's for the gusset to be pushed out with. So pressing it down in the center, equalizing everything out. Show it who's boss. And take a look, make sure there's no adhesive sticking out. If there is, use a little crepe rubber. That is your gusseted pocket. Small little pocket, great for keys, lighters, coins, whatever you want, banknotes. Probably not a mobile phone, unless it's a flip phone, of course. But there we go, a little bit of excess there. Keeps it inside nice and neat. And that is the pocket. So now it's time to stitch that in. Again, you can take a look at how to stitch that in on the video, How to Make a Mini Doctor's Bag. Again, the pocket section starts at 27 minutes in. So here we have the pocket installed, completely sewn in on both sides. On the rear side, you'll notice, of course, we have reinforced the stitching, so it reduces the chances of the stitching cutting into it as the pocket's opened and contents put inside. So right now, we have the lining oversized, as we know. I'm going to take the pattern and place it over the top and just take a second just to centralize it. And when you're happy, what we're going to do is make some marks with our awl, a round awl, so that we know exactly whereabouts we are on the pattern on the other side. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. So taking a round awl.
Create a bag with a magic handle. In part 2 of the Lizzie Crossbody bag, you're going to discover how to make a perfectly round handle without a protruding seam, how to create the illusion of your handle magically appearing from the top of your bag without lumps, bumps, or any obvious points of attachment, even on the inside. Stand out from the crowd with your work and find out why students in 86 countries are following over 70 full-length Leathercraft courses. To find out more, head to leathercraftmasterclass.com. Hi, my name is Philip, and this is the Leathercraft Masterclass.